Hello, my name is Chris Marino and I'm the Reference and Outreach Archivist at UC Berkeley's Environmental Design Archives. Welcome to the 6th video in the Society of American Archivists instructional video series on describing archives, a content standard. In this video, we will be going over how DACS came to be, continues to adapt, and how it relates to other descriptive standards. Once this video is over, you should understand how DACS is an output-neutral standard that is based on national and international standards that came before, that it enables archival collections to be more accessible and places value on the intellectual component of processing, and that it is an ever-changing standard that was and continues to be created by and for archivists. This video is free and available to anyone who wants to learn more about DACS. But if you sign up to take the DACS workshop for credit, you will be responsible for understanding this content, and there will be a quiz to test your understanding. DACS was very much a product of its time, a direct result of a paradigm shift that occurred in the 1980s, coupled with technological advancements that took place throughout the 1990s. In the late 1980s, the Society of American Archivists Working Group on Standards for Archival Description redefined archival description. This working group's definition marked a paradigm shift in the way description in the archival world was conceptualized. The focus of description was taken away from the products of standardized descriptions, like MARC records, and placed on the intellectual process underlining description. Prior to descriptive standards like DACS, the widely accepted standard for archival description was APPM, or Archives, Personal Papers, and Manuscripts, a standard that provided guidelines for producing basic catalog records, i.e. MARC records, in online systems. As time progressed, certain technological advancements, such as the wide use of the Internet in the early 1990s, the creation of XML or extensible markup language in the mid to late 1990s, the launching of EAD, or encoded archival description, in 1996, and the late 1980s paradigm shift made archivists think critically about the limitations of APPM. It became apparent that any revision to this standard should incorporate rules for finding aids, not just catalog records, and in addition jibe well with the recently published International Archival Descriptive Standards, ISAAR-G and ISAAR-CPF. In the end, archivists decided that revising APPM was not sufficient and that a new descriptive standard was needed. 1994 was a pivotal year in DACS's history. The same year the TV show Friends came out and the year Justin Bieber was born, the International Council on Archives published its first standard called the International Standard on Archival Description General, or ISAAR-G. ISAAR-G provides guidelines for creating descriptions of archival materials based on accepted theoretical principles, like that of respective fond, that is, organizing collections according to the entity by which they were created or received, and other principles that are rooted in the concept of multi-level description, essentially that archival description proceeds from general to specific. This descriptive standard defines 26 elements in 7 areas of a descriptive record: identity statement, context, content and structure, conditions of access and use, allied materials, note, and descriptive control, and provides general content guidelines. Fast forward 2 years to 1996, and ICA releases the International Standard Archival Authority Record for corporate bodies, persons, and families. ISAAR-CPF is a companion standard to ISAAR-G, concerning authority records associated with archival materials. This model defines 27 elements in 4 areas of an authority record: identity, description, relationships, and control, and includes general content guidelines. In response to ICA standards, archivists from the United States and Canada formed a joint task force with the help of an NEH grant augmented by the Delmas Foundation. Custard, or the Canadian-U.S. Task Force on Archival Description, had 3 primary goals. They wanted to produce a content standard that would replace APPM, one that would function in accordance with ISAAR-G and ISAAR-CPF, and a content standard that could be applicable to all types and levels of description and archival materials. Starting in 2001, 8 Canadians and 7 U.S. archivists met 4 times over 2 years to draft a set of standards. By 2003, Custard came up to the conclusion that a joint content standard was not possible within the time frame. Canada stuck with their previous standard, Rules for Archival Description, or RAD, and revamped them. By 2004, the United States archivists had distilled the Custard draft into Describing Archives, a content standard. The Technical Subcommittee on Describing Archives, a content standard, is responsible for overseeing the timely and ongoing intellectual and technical maintenance and development of DACS. When DACS undergoes a revision, archivists on the Technical Subcommittee look at how DACS can be brought in closer alignment with recently updated companion standards, as well as consult the archival community regarding how DACS could better serve its users. For the most recent revision in 2013, there were 4 major outcomes. Part 3 of DACS, Forms of Names, was removed to bring it in accordance with RDA², a companion standard. Part 2 of DACS was reworked to contain rules for the creation of archival authority records so that it more closely aligns with ISAAR CPF. DACS was revised in response to feedback from the archival community to promote local naming conventions to describe these new types of collections containing digital or electronic records. To increase input from the larger community, the Technical Subcommittee has moved DACS to GitHub. Note the web address on the screen. In conclusion, things to remember. DACS is an output-neutral standard that is based on national and international standards that came before. That it enables archival collections to be more accessible and places value on the intellectual component of processing, a direct result of the paradigm shift in the late 1980s. And that it is an ever-changing standard that was and continues to be created by and for archivists. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out the rest of the videos in the Society of American Archivists series on DACS to become an Archival Description Pro.